It is not an exaggeration to say that without these 7 qualities we learnt from running, we wouldn't be heading towards 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, we wouldn't be living in Thailand, we wouldn't be on the cusp of financial freedom, and we wouldn't be half the people that running has made us. And we want that for you too. So here's how we use the qualities we learn from running to build our dream life, and how you can too. The first quality that running's given us that's helped us sculpt our dream life, and it might be the most defining, is confidence. Because when you start that running journey and maybe you walk a little less or maybe you run a little further, you can't help but feel a sense of achievement, and that helps build your self-esteem. And it doesn't have to come from maybe losing weight or anything like that, it's the fact that you're showing up. Because for me, the confidence lesson I took over from my running to my life was more about the learning to nudge and nurdle and take small risks and see what works. And that initially directly impacted the YouTube channel, and that was the most obvious when it came to, in the early days I was just making content about different things, and I made a video about me running my first marathon and people were interested, and if I didn't have the confidence at that point to try it, I would never have pivoted into this being a running channel. But then it got even better. You see, with confidence growing in the channel and knowing the type of content we wanted to make, a bigger decision was on the horizon. And that was one that was going to change our lives forever and lead us here. So in around summer 2021, we made the probably biggest decision of our lives based on the confidence we got from our running journey and the YouTube channel. And that was going to be that we were going to move to Thailand. So me, Mary, Winnie, and now Jessie live in Thailand, and we are genuinely feel like we live in the dream. And none of this would have been possible without the confidence that I gained from running and the YouTube channel and journey and took over into my life. But it doesn't come without its challenges, which just so happens to be point 2. And we kind of live by a few mottos actually, but one of the mottos that we live by is, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. We're going out for a run, also with Winnie. And actually, running is the perfect vehicle to teach you about challenge, because, you know, a lot of the time what you learn with running is that you have to be uncomfortable. You have to be uncomfortable in order to get better. And you can see that in our running journey, from me particularly, when I signed up to do a marathon, then an ultra marathon. We moved to Thailand, and then I ran more ultra marathons in the heat. And you know, it doesn't always have to be distance. You could aim to run faster, or you could just do something like Mary did, which was, she was a road runner, and in Thailand she switched to the trails. It's about being out of your comfort zone in order to improve. And to a certain extent, even easy runs are uncomfortable for runners, because you want to be pushing harder. It's natural for a runner to want to push in everything. So even with being comfortable, I'm uncomfortable, but it's good. That's Winnie done while we go back out. She can last about 2 kilometers nowadays. But we took the challenge that we learnt from running, all of those principles, and we put them into our lives. So as far as challenge is concerned, if you do want to build or start building your dream life, what I'd recommend is finding areas within your current life that are too comfortable, where you think this is autopilot. Sometimes you need to have that, and I totally get that. You can't have everything challenging in your life, otherwise you'll break. But areas where you want to push on and you're not uncomfortable. For me, it was, I didn't have a YouTube channel. I knew it would be lots of work, had to do it. We were living in the UK, that's too comfortable. Moved to Thailand. I went through a lot of professional development to get me as highly qualified as I could possibly be as a running and triathlon coach. But the key to all of this is beware, because that change, it just doesn't happen overnight. We're 5 years in, and really, we're nowhere near where we want to be. We have a clear goal, but we're not there yet.
One thing we've learned from our running journey is the importance of structure, and that has enabled us to get the absolute most out of our lives. And that structure in our weekly training schedule, also structure within each run and how they vary. It makes our runs really focused and really productive. So this year for me has probably been the most structured year of running I've ever had, and I've PB'd at every distance, and I put that largely down to the structure. So how did that transfer over into our lives? Well, that's pretty simple, because when you structure the time you have available, it really helps you to make the most out of it. And here's some ways that we did that.
For me personally, in order to make the YouTube channel work, I've had to really structure my time outside of my day job. And that is, I know when I come home, I know which days I'm going to be working all evening on the YouTube channel. I know which days I'm going to be coaching the athletes that I coach and what I'm going to be doing and when. And that just means that I avoid anything like the dreaded doom scroll when you come in from work. Although, I will just say, that does not happen all of the time. Doom scrolling is sometimes inevitable. It's your body's way of just giving you a hard break.
Switching off.
Yeah.
Other ways we've factored structure into our lives are having a really tight morning routine. It helps us get the most sleep possible, but also make the most of our morning before we go out to work. And the same for the evening. We have a hard cut off, making sure we get to bed at a good time. And obviously we structure in all of our training, all of our running, so we know when it's going to happen, what days, what times, and that helps us to make sure we get everything done and we get the most out of it all.
The next quality that I learned actually a bit later on than most was the importance of discipline over motivation. And if I had to explain what both were, I'd say the difference were that motivation is emotional, it requires emotion. Sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. Discipline, zero motivation, it is just there and it's done. And discipline you get from forming lots and lots of habits. So how we've created discipline in our running, you've probably seen it a lot on the channel, is we created lots of little habits, from getting our clothes out the night before we run, to putting our shoes by the front door, to even writing down what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, where we're going to do it, and what time before each session. Also, to make runs happen, we've created the habit of not allowing ourselves to sit down when we come in, as in running straight after work, because we know what will happen if we sit down, doom scroll. And we even have created a stretching routine at the end of every run that is now purely habitual. There's no thought required, this just happens after every run. But again, how did we transfer that into our life so that we could start building that dream life? So for us, it was as simple as trying to work out ways that we could buy time. So I have a coaching business, the YouTube business, I have my full-time job, I have training. We had to work out what can we do in the day, habits-wise, that is going to maximize that time. The first thing we did was we created a morning routine. We made sure that we had coffee at set time, phones were in the other room and we don't check them for the first 40 minutes of the day. We have real set structure, and at the end of the day, same thing, phones go away an hour before bedtime so that we can maximize productivity and getting ready for sleep. We have nutritional habits as well, so we don't buy anything that we don't want to eat. We don't do that in the supermarket because I know I can't rely on my motivation or willpower to avoid chocolate. It just doesn't happen. So we don't buy it. And the final piece of the jigsaw for us is our financial habits. And these are probably the most important as we're trying to move towards financial freedom. And that is, at the start of every month, on payday or around, we transfer a certain amount out of our account into savings straight away. And that's helped us to think about the future when we believe we can be financially free. And again, no thought involved in that process. We just do it and live with what we've got left. And that brings us on to a harder quality to learn and deal with and translate into your normal life, and that is the quality of dealing with setbacks. The thing about setbacks is that we spend probably most of our time running and life trying to avoid them, and we probably should. But there's so much that we can learn from them as well. And it's easy to think of setbacks in running and just think, well, that's injury. But of course, there are other setbacks that you can have, like overtraining, which can lead to staleness or plateauing and underperforming, whether that be in racing or training. It's also frustrating. But I like to categorize my setbacks into two columns, really, and it's the things that I can control and the things that I can't control. And that becomes a lot simpler. And let's look at being hit by a car, for example. Obviously I couldn't really control that one, so I don't think too hard about it. But then the things that I can actually control, I do something about. So it took a few years, but actually as part of the journey I realised that one of my major setbacks, one of my major problems was injuries being caused by overtraining or not looking after myself properly. So in the running game, I've now controlled what I can control. I get regular weekly and monthly treatments to keep myself on track rather than rehab. We call it prehab. But how do we translate it to the real world, to our lives? setbacks in life? Yeah, I've had a few. I've had a lot, in fact. But what do you do about them? Well, that's easy. It's the same thing. It's accept them, learn from them, stay in the game. Have I sometimes lost coaching clients because we haven't quite got the relationship right? Yeah. Learn from it, stay in the game. Have I made videos on YouTube where I've thought, oh, that is an absolute banger, and they have completely bombed, 10 out of 10, terrible viewing? Learn from it, stay in the game, and be a little bit gutted, but move on. I've had a podcast, I've had a newsletter, I've done numerous things that haven't worked out for whatever reason, and you know what? It's part of this journey. Setbacks are as valuable as things that are successful, and that's how I view it. Learn from it, stay in the game. Oh, and by the way, created a new newsletter that's going to give you loads of value, tips, tricks, all sorts, and if you want to sign up for it, then it's in the description to this video. But the point here is setbacks are part of the game. In fact, they're necessary for you to get better. The obstacle is the way. And the penultimate quality that running has taught me on this journey that I've been able to translate into my life is that you cannot cheat the grind. Hard work is all important. Now, Mary and I wouldn't be where we are in terms of our running without just consistent hard work, not giving up, making sure we hit every session. And it's been a process. This channel alone is 5 years old. You've seen Mary build from 5 kilometers to ultra marathons. There's no shortcuts. So it won't surprise you to know that we've translated that into our personal lives, and nothing like this YouTube channel is going to happen overnight, and it certainly hasn't. And I know from many friends that are YouTubers, we're talking about Mark Lewis, Kofuzi, Ben Felton, Andy Rayner, James Dunn, Philly. I know how hard these people work. It is a grind. There is no such thing as cheating the system and it happening quickly when you look behind the camera at all of the work that's going on. So like with running, there's no overnight success. I know that. I work my day job, I come home, I train, I then work my YouTube job and my coaching job almost every evening. And you know what? It's okay, because I know that that is the way to succeed. It's not going to be me sitting watching TV, as much as sometimes I would quite like to. So I guess what I'm trying to say kindly is don't ever be thinking that anything is going to happen overnight or that you're going to be successful without putting in deep levels of hard work. But I suppose there's the caveat that if you love what you're doing, it doesn't really feel like work, and that's kind of where I'm at, and it brings me on to the last point, which really pins all of this together. And the last quality we learnt from running, and probably the most important quality if you want to build that dream life that you feel like you deserve, is you have to have passion. So for us, when it came to running, it was very much appreciating in the early days that we get to do this, we get to find the joy in this rather than we have to do this. Because I think some people, you can go out of your house and you can feel like it's a bind or a burden to go out and run, and think how many people don't get to do this in the world. Is probably the large percentage. So finding the joy and pinning yourself to a really long-term project, like I'm definitely going to be the world champion in the 90 to 95 age group, by the way, probably because I might be one of the only ones left standing. But very early on we transferred that quality that we learnt from our running over into our life. So when we sat down and we created this channel, one of the first things we were thinking is, what's our why? What's the big thing that drives us above all else? And what we hit on is the reason that we're educators, the reason that we're coaches, the reason that we do this YouTube thing is we want to help you, we want to help everyone fulfill their potential. That's absolutely our passion and what drives us. It's not about money, it's not about subscribers or followers or anything other than being able to help as many people as we possibly can. So when it gets tough, when times are tough, when videos bomb, or when work is hard and we're finding it hard to create content as well, we just remember we want to help other people fulfill their potential. And that makes it easier for us to get out of the door and run, because if we're not running, we don't have the channel, we don't have the thing that we believe we can help people with the most. It helps us make YouTube videos, Instagram reels, do all the coaching, and keep driving forwards. Passion, our why. So if you don't have it yet, do some thinking, do some deep diving on yourself, and find that thing that can pin you to everything else, all of the other qualities we've just talked about, for the rest of your life. I promise you there's not a day that goes by where I'm not motivated in some way because of that thing that sits above, the why. So this video is obviously a departure from our normal style of content, but I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's helped in some way, and if it's brought you value, consider subscribing to the channel, but never a hard sell. And if you did like the video, you're definitely going to like this one, which is the 7 habits of highly successful runners. And again, hopefully that's going to bring you some value that you can implement into your running and your life. And New York Marathon in less than 2 weeks. Super excited to bring you all the content. Thanks for watching. See you soon.